Hi Leanne, so take us through the Ombudsman's findings.
Well, some really damning words from Victorian Ombudsman Deborah Glass today, who described the state's border permit system resulted in some of the most questionable decision-making she's seen in her 7 years in the role. So as you mentioned, Victoria shut its border to New South Wales in July due to the worsening COVID outbreak across the border. And some of the findings in the report were that of the more than 33,000 applications for an exemption made to the Department of Health between July and September this year, only 8% of them were actually granted. The report found that most applications, in fact, never even made it to a decision maker, that most of them actually expired. Most people didn't even hear back about the results of them. And that at one point in July, just 20 staff members were responsible for sorting through those thousands of applications. That was eventually scaled up to about 285 workers in September. The report also found that workers responsible for categorising and sorting through and prioritising these applications, well, they were expected to complete 50 applications an hour. So that's just about one every 30 seconds. Now, Ombudsman Deborah Glass has described the system as a bureaucratic nightmare. She says that she doesn't criticise the government's actual decision to shut Victoria's border to New South Wales. She says she understands that was made based on public health advice. However, she does say that more discretion and compassion should have been exercised.
People told us they were not able to get exemptions to farewell loved ones at funerals, attend vital medical appointments, care for sick family members, or return home to care for animals. Some found themselves effectively homeless and caught up in a bureaucratic nightmare.
So Leanne, what's been the reaction from the Andrews government to this?
Well, the Andrews government has largely stood by this decision to enforce this traffic light border permit system. In a statement that they put out just in the last hour or so, they said that the restrictions were necessary to protect Victorians. They pointed out that that time in July, only 17% of Victorians aged over 16 were fully vaccinated, and they've taken great pains to point out that now that 90% of Victorians aged over 12 are fully vaccinated, that the border permit system has been entirely revoked, that there are no longer any restrictions on people travelling domestically. However, the Ombudsman has recommended that the government put in some changes to policy and guidance for any such schemes in the future. But the government says that many of these policy changes will in fact already be reflected in its new pandemic legislation, which was passed last week.
Thanks, Leanne.